Regular session of the Planning Commission of the City of Lancaster, please come to order. Tonight, we had an invocator scheduled, Pastor Matt Dumas. I don't know that he's here. Doesn't appear to be. So Vice Chair Hall will lead the invocation, and Dr. Coronado will lead the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd please stand.
Bow your heads with me. Thank you, Lord, for blessing this city, blessing our staff that helps prepare us for these meetings, blessing this commission so we can make the proper decisions to make the city a better place. Thank you for bringing the public out to watch us. Thank you very much, and a special healing for Royal and Debbie. It's a private intention of mine. I wanted to say it publicly, and we pray in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. The roll call, please.
Commissioners Deanna Cook.
Present.
Miguel Coronado.
Here.
Cassandra Harvey.
Present.
Sandy Smith.
Here.
Fabian Teresiano.
Here.
Vice Chair Randy Hall.
Here.
Chairman James Bose.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Commissioner Smith, you look familiar.
They brought me back, reeled me back in. No, it's a pleasure to be back.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
We now have a full complement, or as Colonel Reams used to say, the T-O-N-E, right?
I believe that's correct.
Tonight, public business from the floor. Typically, we offer a short period of time for folks who come and wish to speak to us who may not be able to stay for the entire meeting. We offer about 10 minutes of our time and yours, and early speakers would be given about 2 minutes each to speak. Do we have any early speakers, Mr. Ludicky?
None have indicated, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So then any person who wants to speak to the commission regarding an agendized item is asked to fill out a speaker's card, give it to our Assistant City Attorney, Ms. Corbett, and when that item is called, we'll call upon you to offer your testimony. As a matter of interest, if the applicants wish to address us, they are not limited other than at our pleasure as far as the time. It may go long or may go short depending on what questions we may have. But individual speakers, either for or against the project, are given 3 minutes. For the record tonight, we have received correspondence on items 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D, 2E, and 2F. They're what is known as uncontested letters, except for item 2C, which we received a contested letter from other than the applicant, or possibly the applicant. I'm not sure. I haven't read them yet. They were just handed to us earlier this evening. So we may take a few moments to read them when we get to those matters. First item of business on our agenda is a consent calendar, which is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of March 21st, 2016. I have a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you.
I second.
Thank you. Comments, questions, please vote.
Motion passes 6-0, 1 abstention.
All right, thank you. First item of business is new public hearings. This is item 2A, which is a map extension for tentative tract map number 61921. So without objection, the public hearing is open on this. As I mentioned earlier, we had an uncontested letter. Do we have any speakers on this item?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right, then, may we have a brief staff report?
Good evening, Chairman Vos, Commissioners. This is a request for a time extension for TTM 61921. This is 20 acres located on the northeast corner of 40th Street West and Avenue J. It is a subdivision for 74 single-family lots. This was originally approved on April 17, 2006, and the state extensions have carried it through this year, and this is an extension for a year, which would be the second of 3 available extensions for this map. Staff has provided revised conditions for this map so that it could be in compliance with current standards and guidelines. This concludes staff's report, and welcome any questions you may have.
We saw this, I believe, at our second meeting from, well, let's see, June 16, 2008 was the last time we've seen this. Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments to staff? Anyone? No? All right. We have speakers then, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. James Thibodeau. Yes.
Welcome up. You can come right up and
Just a simple question. I live in the area. I moved here with my family. Nice and quiet, peaceful. I enjoy the area. My simple question was, I see that they want to bring in some 74 single-family homes, and I'm all for that. Very simple thing that I want to add 2 questions. First time I've ever been here before. The houses that are being built, are they regular kind of homes for people? Are they low income, or are they for sober living, or just regular individual? That's my question.
that's your only question?
That's the only thing I need to know.
All right. We'll be happy to share that with you when the rest of the speakers have an opportunity to
Yes, sir.
address us, and we'll answer all the questions then.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have other speakers?
Daniel, is it Menko?
Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. Have a good evening. First time I've attended one of your things. I've been really meaning to, but this is my
Well,
first
these are
time.
really easy meetings, so don't be nervous.
Okay. I recently moved to the area about a year ago. I've been in the valley since '03, but I actually face the north of, I'm on actually J, and I face it north, and I understand sometimes there's needs for more development, and since I've been here in '03, I've seen a lot of the tracks go up, and one question is the water with the drought and stuff, and how some of these are, how they are able to go forward with our shortage that we've been having. And in addition, I don't want to tell my wife I was coming. She thought I was crazy. One of the, actually my buying points for this home is I have a clear view to the Tehachapi Mountains. Now, to some may think, well, your view can't always stay the same, and I understand that. But it actually was one of the main, this what threw me over the threshold. So, and so I hear coyotes in the morning. It's an open field, you know, it's just a lot of wildlife, and it's just, that was one of my concerns. But in addition, it was the water issue, and I want to know if that's going to be addressed and when we go forward with these developments.
All right, very good.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
No other cards, Mr. Chairman.
All right, then. Mr. Ing, would you please address the concerns, water view, and type of development?
This is a land division, and after when a map is approved at a tentative stage, the applicant would still need to go through a final map process, which would then lead to a recordation of the property for the creation of the 74, 75 lots. So this is a tentative approval. The applicant may choose to build on those lots or sell it to a home builder who would then build on those lots. Typically, these are market rate, or they're sold for market rate, at market rate prices to home buyers. That is the most common scenario for these types of proposals. So as far as questions as to whether it's sober living and or low income, I can't state specifically to that. My understanding is that these typically will be turned over to a home builder, which will sell these homes to typical home buyers.
They are, in fact, single-family detached residences.
They are single-family detached, and the actual products will be reviewed later. After the map has been divided and recorded, then a home builder would come to the city and propose a product for the project site. But that comes later, and at this point, there is no product proposed yet. We don't have floor plans or elevations.
And that product then would be subject to the general plan and all the design standards
We
in
would
place
impose our development regulations and design guidelines
at that time.
And make sure that they meet the conditions that are attached to this recommendation.
All right, very good. You have something?
So I think it was Mr. Thurbo, he asked about the low income and sober living. So if we have homes sold to single families and somebody goes in and wants to set up a sober living facility, what does he have to do?
That typically would require it may be classified as a group home, and they would need to obtain a group home business license, which has its own set of procedures to ensure that it meets state and local requirements. There are distance requirements that are imposed for these types of facilities. They have to be a minimum of 500 feet apart. But at this point, for this review, we have no ability to guarantee or not guarantee whether this may or may not become a sober living facility. That's up to the property owner, whoever purchases the home, and so that's, that there's we don't have an ability to determine whether this would become such in the future.
But this is not a public meeting process to do a group home. So is the resident have any recourse to try to stop that if he feels that it's going to be a detriment to his neighborhood? He just has to go along with it because it's legal?
If I could jump in here, that would be great. Sober living, group home, rehabilitation type facilities are in large part regulated by the state under the Health and Safety Code. If a treatment and recovery facility, residential facility, is licensed by the state and treats 6 or fewer people, the local jurisdiction must treat that house like any other single-family residence. You can't apply any additional restrictions on it, any limitations. There's really no recourse for the residents. If it's more than 6, it's a gray area, although I understand there's legislation pending and in this, I think it's the state Senate, to revise the Health and Safety Code to expressly exempt facilities that treat 7 or more persons from any kind of residential determination. That's left to the local jurisdictions. I don't know if that will pass. I don't know if it will be signed by the governor. If most sober living facilities are not state licensed because they aren't really treatment facilities. They don't provide those kinds of services. They might have 12-step meetings, although even that's a little unclear whether they're allowed to do that. But it's mostly to provide support for the people living in the house. And that, too, is a gray area under state case law. There's a California Supreme Court case from many years ago out of Santa Barbara that a group of unrelated persons who live in a single-family residence in a family-like environment have to be treated like a family. So we have some constrictions, and unfortunately, local residents and neighboring community members don't really have much input on whether that house can or cannot operate.
Well, I can appreciate the residents' concern. I mean, I would like to have a neighborhood raising families and kids and not be a treatment facility. I guess the last question is the water. Can we go over that again? I mean, we've done that pretty much every time that question's brought up, but let's do it again.
We have some conditions that we've included as with all of our extension recommendations. The project applicant, I'm just reading number 17 here, which is the condition regarding water. The applicant must secure permanent water supply entitlements sufficient to meet the project's annual water demands as determined by LA County Waterworks District 40. This entitlement may be secured through entering an agreement with the district to purchase new state water project Table A or other permanent water supply through AVEC. This is a condition that we've included in our recommendations. As you know, these were tentatively approved originally, about 10 years ago. At the time, they were asked to obtain a water availability so that we can process our environmental review. But they still have to obtain ultimately a will serve, and that will serve is obtained as they move through the final map process and recordation.
Thank you.
So if a will serve letter by the jurisdiction that provides water to the project is not issued, then the project doesn't go forward. Or
Right.
any of the other hundreds of conditions that are placed on developments.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to record the map without will serve.
Right. All right. Well, I think we've touched on everything that was raised. Any other comments you wish to make on this project, proposed project? No? All right. Anything from members? All right, then. Be appropriate to close the public hearing without objection and consider a motion.
I make a motion that we grant a one-year extension to April 17th, 2017, based on the findings contained in the staff report and subject to the revised conditions list, attachment to resolution number 06-31.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Anything further? Please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next item is item 2B, which is tentative tract map number 62793. So without objection, the public hearing is open on this item. Do we have speakers on this?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right, and as I mentioned previously, we have received an uncontested letter, I believe. We have, yes. So what's the commission's pleasure? You care to hear a staff report, or are you ready for a motion?
Ready for a motion.
Jump right in there.
Well, then, all right. I make the motion that we grant a time extension to January 17th, 2017, based on the findings contained in the staff report and subject to the revised conditions list attachment to resolution number 07-04.
Second.
Thank you. Anything further? Please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next item is item 2C, which is tentative tract map number 64965. This is an item that we received a contested letter on. Do we have speakers on this?
the applicant's representative, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so without objection, the public hearing is open, and we'll hear from the applicant. It's rep. Whomever that is.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, member of the Planning Commission. My name is Abe Nejim, and I'm from Antelope Valley Design Group. I wrote a letter. I have just some couple of concern about condition about the bicycle lane and the conditions of that bicycle lane. First of all, condition number 2, it says that we have to Challenger Way. It's 78 feet of the ultimate 100 feet right of way. But if you go to condition number 4, it says that it has to be the bicycle lane, it has to be in both sides of the street. And what that means that the owner has to develop full width of the street, which is 100 feet. And so there is some contradiction in that, in my opinion. So I recommended that.
Let me ask you a question. Have you had an opportunity to discuss your concerns since you're the applicant's representative or our staff?
Say it again, sir.
I say, have you had the opportunity, since you are the applicant's representative, to discuss your concerns with city staff?
Yes, sir. I talked to John, and he asked me to write a letter last Wednesday.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead.
And thank you, sir. And I suggested that for future planning, just an idea from my past experience, that we have a lot of sidewalks and not being used inside the tracks. So in lieu of having these building bicycle lane in very trafficated roads, maybe these bicycle lanes should be inside the tracks within that right-of-way. You have 12 feet of right-of-ways, and that could be, you could have 4 feet landscape, 4 feet. As a matter of fact, we're shortage in water. So you could have a sidewalk less than 5.5 feet or 6 feet, and you could have landscape, reduce the landscape area. In that 12 feet, you could have bicycle lane, so family could have nice walk in the sidewalk, smaller sidewalk. At the same time, they have their kids riding their bicycles in that. I recommended that for any future tracks, but that's up to you gentlemen and ladies to consider that. My other concern that they ask us to also to extend the track farther to the west to go through track 54199, and that's almost like 1/3 of a mile. And even if we extend one of the street, that street that they recommended, Street D, it will go nowhere. It goes to the desert. That track is not being developed, and it doesn't go anywhere. So I'm just requesting that the Planning Commission consider these 2 conditions and maybe modify them. Other than that, the owner doesn't have any other issue with the conditions and approval of these conditions.
That it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Who'd care to respond? Mr. Ludicky, Mr. Ing?
I'll begin my response, and I'll probably turn it over to Michelle. Given the nature of these requests, sometimes our time is fairly limited in our ability to work with the applicant. There's some details here that I agree we could have worked with the applicant, but our time was limited in our ability to provide a response prior to this meeting. But I'll turn the time over to Michelle, who can speak in regards to the requirements for bike lanes and secondary access.
Before you do that, the recommendation is to grant a 1-year extension still stand?
Yes.
However, if it was our pleasure then to extend the map 60 days and give it back to you for further discussion, we had that within our purview?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
Sure. So I'll address the concerns raised regarding the bike lanes first. The concerns expressed were regarding bike lanes on Challenger Way and the width of the improvements that were conditioned. The way we write our conditions for street improvements says that they shall improve 78 feet of an ultimate 100-foot right-of-way. So what that includes is basically 50 feet of improvements from center line to adjacent to their project. So full improvements, curb, gutter, sidewalk, and pavement. Also a raised landscape median. Then the other 28 feet would be east of center line, and those are improvements on the other side of the road. And that consists of half of a raised median, which is, sorry, I'm going to do a little math here, half of a raised median, which is 7 feet, one vehicle travel lane, which would be 13 feet, and then there's an 8-foot shoulder. That 8-foot shoulder can be used for a bike lane. So there aren't any additional widening immediately adjacent to the track that would be required beyond the 78 feet. So the bike lane can fit within that 78 feet. The condition requires further widening to the north to Avenue H. And the reason we asked for additional bike lanes up to H is, we don't want to just build bike lanes in a very short segment. They need to be able to go to somewhere, provide some kind of connection to something. So the thought was trying to get it, to this mobile home park that's to the east, and then to the next available arterial street, which is Avenue H. So that's why we added the condition to go all the way to H. And this is all per our master plan of bikes and trails. It does call for bike lanes on Challenger Way. So that would require an additional widening, and it's just a shoulder widening. We wouldn't ask for them to do, complete full improvements, meaning curb, gutter, and sidewalk all the way to H. It would just be essentially widening 6 feet on either side of the street in order to accommodate that additional bike lane. And all of that can be accommodated within the existing right-of-way on Challenger Way, because there's already 100 feet of right-of-way along that segment. So it would just be some shoulder widening in order to accommodate those lanes.
So there's no challenges related to acquiring right-of-way for this?
Not for the bike lanes, no. It can be accommodated within the existing 100-foot right-of-way.
So from the center line east, is there?
I'm sorry?
From the center line east?
Yes, there's 50 feet of right-of-way on the east side, and there's 50 feet on the west side.
So there's no need for acquisition?
Correct.
Of right-of-way?
That's correct.
So you did mention that these are revised conditions since this map was approved initially in April 16, 2007.
Yes, that's correct. And we have since approved or adopted the master plan of trails and bikeways. And so that's why this is an added condition to try and meet what was set forth in that master plan.
So when you say we, this planning commission as well as city council adopted
City
that.
council adopted it, yes, and planning commission, correct.
Okay, thank you. Anything further?
So I can address the second issue.
Please.
So he raised concerns about providing secondary access to the west to connect to the track. You can actually see it on the aerial on the exhibit. That was the intent of the condition. And this is actually not a new condition. This was a condition that was approved when the tentative map was approved, what was it, in 2005 or 6? And basically the intent of providing the secondary access, that is something that is in our code. Essentially, there's supposed to be 2 points of access provided into tracks that exceed a certain length, over 1,000 feet in. So this track does meet those requirements, and that's why the secondary access condition was recommended.
Good, thank you. Anything from members?
If we modified the recommendation and extended it to 60 days, would there be any chance that anything would change in the recommendations?
I I wouldn't necessarily recommend a change. Again, I'm trying to meet the needs of the master plan of trails and bikeways, and also our code, which requires the two access points. Could there be another way to potentially get that secondary access? There might be a way to go to the south and then find another access point out to Challenger Way. So that could be something that we could consider and work out with the applicant, but it would still require going across adjacent parcels and acquiring right away from adjacent properties.
Thank you. Anyone else? String, anything further?
No.
All right, then. Do we have any other speakers, Mr. Lutke?
No other speakers, Mr. Chairman.
All right, then. So if it's your pleasure, we'll close the public hearing without objection and consider a motion or something.
I move that we grant a one-year extension to April 16th, 2017, based on the findings contained in the staff report and subject to the revised conditions list, attachment to resolution number 07-19.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All right, anything further from members? Comments? Ready to vote? Please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, thank you. Next item is item 2D, which is the tentative tract map number 72565, which is an extension. So without objection, the public hearing is open. Do we have speakers on this item?
No, Mr. Chairman.
None? Oh, okay. All right, then. Anyone care to hear a staff report? Just for everyone's information, I should have mentioned this earlier. The commission meets usually the week or 2 weeks prior to this regular public meeting. We meet as a commission in public, but we don't deliberate. We receive a staff report, which generally contains a couple hundred pages of information. We have an opportunity to address the concerns that members might have, ask questions, hear input from staff. However, we don't deliberate. We don't vote. We just gather information. So when we come here on a regular meeting, oftentimes folks will say, well, gee whiz, so-and-so had a objection or a concern. You guys didn't even explain yourself why you voted the way you did. Well, we've had an opportunity to consider these matters, I should say, over a lengthy period of time, and we don't necessarily form our conclusion until the meeting. Maybe some do, I don't, but at any rate, that's a matter of conjecture, I guess. So when these issues are brought up before us, either by staff or by applicants or by neighbors or whomever, we do consider those comments. However, we've had a very thorough briefing well in advance of the meeting. So if it seems like we're not paying attention to what you've got to say, that isn't the case at all. So we have a motion on this item.
I move to grant a one-year extension to May 19, 2017, based on the findings contained in the staff report and subject to the revised condition list, attachment to resolution number 14-05.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Anything further? Please vote then.
Motion passes 7-0.
Very good. Thank you. Next item is item 2E, which is a map extension for tract 2925. So without objection, the public hearing is open on this matter. Do we have any speakers on this one?
No speakers, Mr. Chairman.
No speakers, all right. All right, thank you. Anyone care to hear staff report on this? All right, very good. All right then, without objection, we'll close the public hearing, consider a motion.
I move that we grant a time extension to February 21st, 2017, based on the findings contained in the staff report and subject to the revised conditions list attachment to resolution number 07-08.
Thank you. Have a second, please?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Yes, I would like to ask the Assistant City Attorney. I live, what is the distance where I should consider abstaining?
You must abstain if the property is within 500 feet, and then it gets a little hazy from there.
Okay, it's much more than 500 feet, so, but it's close, thanks. I'm sorry, but you do need to consider if you have a potential financial benefit or loss to be derived from this, then you still need to recuse yourself, regardless of distance.
All right, ready to vote? Please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, thank you. The next item is public hearing 2F. Which is tentative parcel map number 72532 and a conditional use permit number 0608. So without objection, the public hearing is open on these items. We have speakers on this.
The only card I have, Mr. Chairman, is actually the applicant.
All right. Very good. Could we have a brief staff report then?
Sure.
Thank you.
Chairman, Commissioners, this is a request for extension for tentative parcel map 72532 and conditional use permit 06-08. This is located on the southeast corner of Avenue L and 60th Street West, 40 acres, of which this is the parcel map is a subdivision for 10 commercial parcels, and the conditional use permit is for the construction of a commercial shopping center, including alcohol sales for the Anchor One building and the drugstore, all in the commercial plan development zone. The conditional use permit for the shopping center was originally approved in 2009, and it had its extensions, and in 2014, conditions were modified and added so that the expiration of the CUP would be coterminous with the expiration of a tentative map. In 2014, a tentative map was submitted for this project site, and it's been 2 years since the approval of the tentative map, so now both the map and the conditional use permit is before you as a request for time extension. All of the original conditions of approval remain as part of this recommendation. The parcel map, the conditions adopted in 2014 will apply, and the conditions for the CUP apply. There are no proposed revised conditions, but staff is recommending a 1-year time extension for this request, and I welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you. We have received an uncontested letter on this item as well. So, would the applicant care to address us tonight? Not obliged to, but you're certainly welcome to. I know how much you love public meetings, Mr. Lane. Not tonight, huh? All right, thank you. Okay, So, anything further from the commission? No objections. We'll close the public hearing, consider a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we grant a one-year extension to May 19th, 2017, based on the findings contained in the staff report and subject to all previously approved conditions.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Anything further? Please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, thank you. And best of luck with this project. You sure want to see it starting to grow out of the ground. All right, that concludes our action items for this evening. We do have director's announcements, however. Mr. Ludicky?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, on Wednesday evening this week between 5 and 8 p.m., the city is conducting a workshop open house on the city's Complete Streets Master Plan. The intent of that open house is to receive input, comment from the community, but it's also to provide some education on the factors that affect street design, the relationship between street design and speed limits, how speed limits are set, issues of safety and accessibility and mobility. And I would encourage you that if you have any time that evening, it's, as I said, an open house format. You can drop by any time between 5 and 8. It's at the Stanley Kleiner Building at Lancaster City Park. And the Complete Streets Master Plan is a plan that you as a commission in the future will be reviewing and making a recommendation on. It will ultimately have ramifications in terms of amendments to the city's general plan, as well as affect in the long term how we look at our subdivision ordinance, perhaps some revised street cross sections and other things. So,
go ahead.
That's on the 27th?
Yes, it is.
Should we coordinate through your office so that we are careful not to violate the Brown Act?
As long as there's no more than 3 of you standing together, I think that would work, but I'll defer to the Assistant City Attorney in case she has other advice.
Thank you.
I agree with Mr. Ludicky. That's really all you need to do. You don't need to coordinate staggered
Just want to make
attendance.
sure perception
Yeah.
sometimes can be everything.
Just don't huddle in a corner all together, okay?
All right, very good. So we don't have to agendize that as a commission meeting if all of us decide we wanted to attend, even though we don't communicate whether we're going to attend or not.
That's fine, as long as you don't discuss any potential planning commission business while you're all there together. You can be there together and talk about social issues.
Did you say socialist issues? You know, my hearing's not very good, so I apologize. All right. Is that it, Mr. Ludicky?
Yes, that is my announcement for the evening.
All right. Very good. Thank you. Anything for the commission's agenda? Understand that we have new opportunities in front of us in our agenda preparation, review, and management. Want to share that?
Very briefly, with the support of the city manager's office, we are looking to transition the Planning Commission to an iPad-based agenda and staff report format. We will be discussing with each one of you the particulars of that, and of course we'll provide the necessary support and training for that. But we believe that this is a great step forward, and certainly is going to make much more effective use of our staff time and our city resources if you look at just the amount of paper tonight's agenda, which is relatively short, meant. So
There's what,
Look
about
forward to-
750, 800 pages tonight,
Yeah, probably so. So,
back to back?
well, we always try to do two-sided. It's more efficient that way. But I think you'll find that this is, I think it's overdue, but I think it will be a wonderful opportunity, and hopefully we will get your support on it also.
Terrific. Great, thank you. All right then, public business from the floor, non-agendized items. This portion of the agenda allows individuals the opportunity to address the commission on any subject regarding city business. However, state legislation indicates that there's no action that can be taken on agenda items. Members of the public should be aware of this when addressing the commission regarding items not specifically referenced on the agenda. And we ask you to fill out a speaker's card if you'd like to address us on non-agenda items. Do we have any speakers?
I have no cards, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone here that would like to speak to us? Nope? All right then. Thank you. So without objection, we stand adjourned to our special meeting for agenda review Monday, May 9th, 2016 at 5:30 p.m. here in the Parks, Recreation, and Arts Conference Room.